Never has it been more obvious that nations, institutions, and organizations need to know how to address crisis situations. What may be less obvious is how they may be creating, extending, or exacerbating crisis through self-inflicted wounds. Recent events have drawn attention to the need for evidence-based education in resilience leadership.
Center for Trauma Studies and Resilience Leadership is a research, executive education, and community intervention organization that reduces human suffering by creating evidence-based theory, research, education, and practice in the effective management of extreme situations.
Most education on extreme context and crisis situations is informed by United States-based research. Now, this can be quite helpful in giving us a collective way of seeing things, but it also is limiting. So in the Center for Trauma Studies and Resilience Leadership, one of the unique aspects we bring to our education opportunities is that we leverage research from around the globe. This happens by both the in-depth analysis we have conducted on hundreds of articles on catastrophes, the collapse of sense, and improvising and the restoration of sense from articles all around the world. Additionally, our own research is conducted in the field in various extreme contexts around the world. And likewise, our partnerships are largely international. Now, the point behind this is that we're hoping to stretch not only our paradigms as educators, but also the paradigms of our students and those who participate in our executive education programs. In medieval times, that was part of education. You had to shock yourself through other cultures. So this kind of culture shock was intended to jar into existence. Today's demands make it obvious that we need to extend beyond the classroom to gain the kind of learning that's necessary for taking on the challenges of the day. So this quote here really emphasizes the value of ecological learning, or in other words, embedded learning, learning that reinforces here and now about the kind of topics we're talking about. Learning that comes from more than just the cognitive space of sitting in a classroom, but rather is reinforced and challenged in the moment. Ecological embeddedness allows for subtle understanding of context, enhanced learning, and easier transfer of knowledge within and between settings. Further, it provides opportunities for sense giving and action and encourages more innovative responses to complex problems. Physical proximity to the knowledge of local ecosystems can contribute to resilience because, in many cases, proximity and direct dependence on the resource space makes it easier to filter out and discard practices that are clearly unsustainable. This is what we need in the world that we live in. Hiking in nature not only increases our ability to learn, but also helps our working memory and our mood. So spending time in nature, as opposed to just taking a walk in urban spaces, has a positive impact on our short-term memory, our working memory, and our positive affect, which is our moods. Additionally, spending time in nature also makes the workplace a little more pleasant. It increases job satisfaction and enthusiasm. The perception that the workplaces care about their people and care about nature. So when organizations and institutions deliberately incorporate nature time into their workplace, well, you're going to see a more satisfied workforce and less stress in the workplace and less burnout for your people. Once again, the center is ahead of the demand in meeting the need to expand education outside of the classroom. Our portfolio of resilience leadership expeditions are grounded in the transformative learning environment of the Great Western Trail. The Great Western Trail is the longest trail in the U.S., spanning 4,445 miles. One of our most sought-after expeditions is the expedition to Man Gulch, Montana. This is the location in which several young men lost their lives to an extreme forest fire. This story of the smoke jumpers' challenge against an extreme environment is sought after partly because it's a fundamental research case study for those who study high reliability organizations and high resilience leadership. People have been building upon that story for 30 years with thousands and thousands of articles and researchers who have studied it. We in the Great Western Trail expeditions take our scholars, our executives, leaders, learners who are interested in learning the story of Man Gulch firsthand in a here and now experience on the mountainside where those men lost their lives. Norman Maclean, best known for his work A River Runs Through It, is also known by extreme context researchers for his book Young Men in Fire, the story of young smoke jumpers who encounter a rapidly changing fire that consumes all but 3 of the smoke jumpers' lives. Tim Crawford is the boatman that transported Norman Maclean and 2 of the surviving smoke jumpers on their return to that fateful site. Tim was also our boatsman on the first trip to hike Man Gulch. This is a brief clip of Tim sharing the story from the words of the surviving smoke jumpers.
Yeah, read Fire on the Mountain. It's a good read. All of his books are good. John Maclean, Norman is a different league. Norman Maclean, sometimes you just put the book down and just wonder what you just read. He's an amazing writer, but he was a crotchety old guy when I read it.
When did you
Laird liked him a lot, 1978.
And then he worked on it for another 13 years.
He died in 1990.
Yeah.
The book was found in the dust part by John McCain. It's what John told me. That's why it's not as polished as a river runs through it, not even close. Whereas a river runs through, what's it? 30 pages, 40 pages, or something like that? It's short stories.
It categorizes itself as fiction anyway. Where Young Men in Fire didn't try to do fiction.
No. I'm not sure that he knew how to finish Young Men in Fire. True. I think that was his problem. He didn't know how to finish.
Learning on and learning from the Great Western Trail is an experience you'll never forget. It's what's needed now after a long stretch of varying degrees of isolation. We could all use some time in nature. We could all use some time with interesting cohorts studying interesting topics. And we need more leaders who are ready to develop resilient organizations, institutions, and nations. So now you have a background on the kind of work we do with the research that we've been conducting for the past 30 years. Now, for the remainder of the presentation, we're going to share the results of a qualitative meta-analysis of 300 articles citing Wyke's 1993 Man Gulch Cosmology episode study in 2020. You will notice that after the brief explanation of the terms, that these 15 findings are shared in terms of expeditions, expeditions that are truly along the Great Western Trail. So we hope that you will enjoy the remainder of the presentation and learn a little bit more about resilience leadership during cosmology episodes.
Playing reference